Welcome to this restorative style suspension yoga session. What you'll need for the session is a wall rope, and I'm using just simply a carabiner and a yoga belt attached to a bike hook at the wall so I can do traction. So it doesn't need to be a yoga wall. But this is a method that we use in Iyengar yoga is the wall rope. So this is what I have devised to do my suspension restorative style. And I have a couple blankets with me. I have a couple bolsters, a block, a sandbag, and a therapy ball. So it's kind of like a kid's toy ball. So it's about 7 inches. And these are really helpful for soothing the circulation and the fascia and traction through the muscles. So let's get started. Let's start on our back with our head on a blanket right next to the wall. And you're going to swing the belt from the wall and then hook your ankles into the loop. Okay, so having this traction belt gives me wonderful capacity for reversing the circulation to accompany balancing my heart, lungs, breathing muscles. So I'm just going to simply spread the arms out and let your legs swing from side to side with only the belt hooked under your ankles. Okay, so when the legs swing, the spine receives this wonderful traction and sensation. Let your eyes close. Simply swing the legs side to side, both of them equal range. Now bring your knees towards your chest in between swinging the knees to one side. And then as you exhale the next round, feel the legs push away and shift towards one side. Come back in center. Knees to the chest. When you push away, feel if you can have that gravitational pulley system. So if my legs are upside down and they're entirely held by this belt, I'm just trying to figure out my sensory kind of balance of my spine into my hips, and then that return flow back to my heart with the legs upside down. So it's a wonderful circulatory experience, since much of our bodies is made of fluids, right? Lymph, blood, water. We're just so fluidic. So this becomes a fluidic experience to begin. So let's take one more time with the legs swinging back out. And now what I want you to do is to take a ball, and it does need to be a pretty good size ball. You don't want a little tennis ball for this one. And I want you to lower down the left leg out of the belt, and you're going to push into that foot and lift the hips up and roll the ball under the sacrum. Okay, so you got one leg up. This is important. You have just one leg lifting. Okay, so my one leg is lifting, and I'm just going to try to keep the balance there. And then as I lift the left foot up, I'm going to cross it over the right knee and let that left knee motion out and come into a figure 4 or reclining pigeon pose. So the right knee bends, the left ankle is hooked to the right leg, the base of the femur, and you might let your arms just rest by your side. So you really are using traction. You're not forcing muscle upon muscle. You're just creating traction through the hips. So feeling the sensation through that left hip. breathing slow. And then as your right leg extends back out and the left leg kind of goes along, it kind of complies with the situation. Feel how it is to change sides with the leg that's up in the belt. So let the left foot lift up into the belt. Use your arms to coordinate your balance, right? You could slide them farther out or keep them next to your hips. And then let's bring the right foot to the left lower leg, right at the base of the femur here. And then as you bend the left knee, you want to find that gravitational pull goes from your mid to lower back, and it's kind of squishy. It's kind of smushable right through the torso, and you are trying to smush or squish, whatever you want to call it, the ball. Just letting your body weight rest into it. No resistance at letting go, and really receiving the traction from the pose. Left knee's bending with the free range of the belt holding on to my left leg. And the right leg is kind of crashing in towards my chest because of the pressure of the left knee bending. Okay, this whole belt traction system is pretty phenomenal for just giving your body the ability to park in these positions and have a pulley system for the traction. Okay, and then if the knees don't pull in very far, that's okay, right? They're going to only go as far as they can. And let's say your knee is kind of crashing in the right leg, but you need something in between your chest and the leg. You could also do things like place a blanket, or you could place a block in between these areas. I could put that block at my ribs, and then that kind of holds the gap, which is really interesting too. It's nice to do. Okay, so now we come out of this one, and I want you to just let your right foot lower to the floor, bottom of the foot down, push into the right foot, and then carefully just lift the hips ever so small, and then roll the ball out to the side, spine traction, right leg releases down, arms both relaxing out, and then the left leg crosses side to side. How far should this belt go down? You have to kind of play with it, the range for yourself. You know, the farther up the belt is, the smaller the loop, the more flexibility is required, right? So the longer the belt, the wider the loop, it's a lot easier. So I try to find something where I feel like I'm getting a little bit of pull, but not too much. And it just is kind of easy. I'm pretty passive. It's a wonderful range of motion. And I can just let the body receive the circulation from swinging the legs side to side. Okay, now when you come back in center, slide the right foot in and bring it up into the belt. And when that left leg lowers down, you can bend the left knee. You can either put the left foot like on a bolster if you need to, but I like to put the foot on the ground, and then just as my right leg swings side to side, I just keep that left leg bending and kind of carefree, so I don't focus on putting it in one spot. I might squiggle around a little bit. I might explore how not only the leg is moving, but my waist is also starting to stretch, and then across the whole sphere of my rib cage, all around the ribs, from the front to the sides to the back. So as the right leg crosses over and out, you also feel that range of motion of the hip joint, the inner thigh, and then next time you come back in center, Let's go ahead and bring both feet up again into the belt and give it a try with just the legs too, and the knees moving out, cobbler's pose. So the soles of the feet are kind of close. So I just have my heels connected and my knees are out, motioning towards my ribs. Let them flow away. Inhale, belly full. Exhale, let the feet flow back in towards the chest. Inhale, pushing out. Straighten out the legs. Exhale, pulling back in. And out. So if you can't quite tell, when I bring my knees in, they're actually moving apart and the heels are together. Okay. So let the legs kind of dangle in this variation for a few more moments. You can hug the back of the legs with the arms cradling around them. Okay, now reach to your feet, to the belt, and bring the knees apart, the feet out of the belt, and then just let the belt drop to the wall. Now, you might be entirely okay with your belt just hanging, but if you don't like it to be hanging over your face for the next little series, you can always take it off of the carabiner off of the hook. That's fine too. So we're going to take a bolster. I recommend a flat bolster if you have choices, flat or round. Have a flat bolster to the right side of your mat. Have your blanket under your head and get a hold of a massage ball. Okay, now if to this point, maybe if you don't have a large massage ball with you, you can always use on this one, you can use a tennis ball. You can have variation. I like the larger ball because it just has a little more surface. It massages, okay? And it doesn't hurt. So I'm going to put my feet on the ground and then lift the hips up into a bridge pose and roll the ball under the left buttock. And it's in the center of the buttock, and let my body weight push down into the ball. And then let my hips move side to side, wagging my tail and pressing into that ball, but also being curious about the circulation that extends in the torso. So you can actually lean far over, but very driven by the stretch into my glutes. Now it's funny, you think about when you're in these hip areas that you're stretching your hips, but it is kind of purposely juicing, right, circulation in the buttocks. You're kind of trying to fluff them up here. Okay. And then push into your feet just a little bit, roll the ball to the right buttock, and in the center of the buttock, the fleshy part, you're trying to move your hips down and across. So the weight is into the ball and massaging in the glutes. Hands rest anywhere, on you, on the sides, on the ground, all up to you. But driven by pure concentration upon these areas that we really want to loosen up so that we live with a freer state of circulation in these areas that are obviously connected to the joints, the muscles, but even more so the organs, the circulation in those areas, and then supporting our nervous system, soothing our nervous system. Okay, now next time I push down into my feet evenly, I'm going to move the ball now to the left hip again, but I want you to elongate the right leg down and then cross the left leg on over to the bolster, bending, okay, the knee. Okay, now before you get all oriented to perfection here, get a sandbag or a weight of sorts. It could be 5 to 10 pounds. Then I want you to put that ball right at the base of the sacrum. So it's an anchor for the left hip to cross over to the bolster. Pull on the sandbag and just be as smooth as you can to cross it over the ribs. And on the outer layer, that outer sheath of the left thigh. Almost fell on me. Sandbag attack. Okay. So crossover, left arm opens, the chest, the heart. My right hand rests anywhere, whether it's on the ground or on me. And if there's something that doesn't feel quite supported, you can always just push the ball and open up the chest. And important here to let your head roll to the left and relax the heart. Hip crossover. And if you don't feel like you have enough support under your left leg, you can always just add on a blanket. You could even add the block under your left knee. It's perfectly fine. You'd probably add the block under the leg versus the block under the bolster, so you can maneuver it easier with the addition of that sandbag. The sandbag can be, you can slide it down to the knee so it's closer to the complex knee. Okay, so bending the right knee, I really like to lower down my circulation into the bottom hip as much as the top hip, the right hip here, and let it be weight bearing into my hip. Let your eyes rest back into your brain and expand the movement in the ribs. Just clear the pathway of the throat. And now as we come out, head center, move the ball first. And as I shift, getting ready to come out of this one with the sand, I'm going to place the sand just on my belly and then roll to center of my back, knees, balance, sand on belly, and really feel the bottoms of the feet. Walk them a little bit away so that you can gently move the tailbone under just to feel that length in the lower back. Between the sand weight and the purposeful stretch of the back muscles, the feet touching down, rest the knees to each other in constructive rest so they touch. Breathe. And then we're going to change sides for the hip crossover. So get a hold of the bolster and cross it to the left side of your mat. Now, as you adjust, left leg stretches down. It can bend a little bit. You want to find like the contours of the bones, because everything's got a contour, right, as far as bone connections. So when I take the crossover, I bring the right knee in, and then I just cross it to the bolster. And this is one where, again, if you need a little bit more, you could add like a block under the knee. If that feels more soothing to you, do that. Otherwise, we're going to place the sandbag on the side of the thigh, right thigh, and the ball goes to the sacrum, and the right arm opens out, and I turn to the right. I turn my head, my heart, my ribs, and I definitely arch the torso here. Just feel what's natural for you to explore circulation. Maybe you push the bolster a little bit downwards. Maybe you slide the sand. Sometimes closing your eyes while you explore these things can be a little bit more soothing, just to kind of go with feeling. Just feeling from the inside. You can make this a practice that's healing. Breathing through the nose, relaxing on the exhale. Take a few moments here when you slide the sand off. You're going to notice how the right hip is receiving, a fairly substantial reach, right, from the back muscles on the contour of the hip. So we're going to kind of continue that, but we're going to add the torso. Okay, so just let the ball roll out over to the left. You gotta put it over there. Now, I want you to, if you feel like you need to bring your knees to your chest, bring them in and rock side to side. Do what you feel is comfortable right now. If you need to take a little water break in between these two sides, that's fine. But when you do roll, I want you to try to roll towards your hips, right? Not roll up to the spine, but roll so it's easy on your bones to come up. Use your hands a little bit. And now we're going to come up and we're going to use the belt again. Okay, so keep it so it's, having it pretty far down might be helpful. You might end up pulling it a little higher up. Let's just kind of see if this one's going to work with the belt just like it was when we started. Okay, so let's have a couple blankets right at the wall, stacked up. Actually pull them a little bit away from the wall. Okay, then you're going to have a bolster. It could be a round bolster like this, and it could be a flat bolster like this. Okay, so you got to choose. I really like a round bolster for my rib work. I think it's exceptional for the articulation of the intercostals. So I highly recommend a round bolster for this side sage. Okay, this is good stuff. So let's take a ball. Okay, I'm leaning. I've got also my sandbag near my knees. Okay, I'm leaning into my left hip, which is next to the round bolster. Okay, so first things first, take the ball. If you don't have a ball, you can use like a blanket, a beach towel, a block you could use here too on the inside of the right knee. But when you lower in, you might have to really push the bolster right up to your hip and then get them ribs to stretch over the bolster. Then get your sandbag carefully. I just put on the bolster because that just takes away some of the discomfort in my back. Let my head lower onto the blanket. That feels too low. I'm going to fold the blanket once more. Much better. Okay. Add the sand to your hip. You can also go up on the ribs. It's just that I want to see if this belt's going to work. Okay. Before I get too committed here. So I'm just going to let my arm relax into the belt. It should feel really easy. Okay. So if you want this to be more exertion, all you got to do is make the belt shorter. And then your arm's going to go higher. But the key is just to find this therapeutic shape. Okay. So it's so therapeutic that I'm leaning into my left side. My right leg, I'm going to try to tease it to move a little bit farther behind me so I can stretch my psoas. My quad, the front of my right thigh gets up. And I don't want to overdo it, my torso. So let your eyes close and just start to arrive into the therapeutic shape. And if it's too much, don't make any movements, so you might have to go back to where you started so it's not overdoing it. It's a really good one to feel the side stretch. And with the rib stretch, sometimes you can get a little bit itchy on this one because the histamine response with a stretch between the ribs. So just noticing, breathe, let it pass. And it's not an area that gets a lot of circulation during the day. If you didn't want to use the belt for this, you can always put your hand, you can move it a little farther away from the wall with your whole setup and your blankets, move a little farther away and just push the hand into the wall. And that could be kind of exciting for the stretch on the side. So you can do something more intense. Okay, now start to come out. And so you could do this one for 5 minutes, probably no longer than 15, but you could time it so you have enough time with the side. You could like press pause and then be here a little bit longer, until you feel like, okay, I'm ready to come around to the middle. So push the sand off, roll your ribs to the left, and then push, come up, and then let's roll onto the back. But just for caution here, be careful, grab a block flat and tuck it under the pelvis so you have something to hold your hips up, and then you're just going to roll back. If you're a little too close to the wall, you can always slide slightly away. My blanket is too high. Okay, unfold it there. All right. So I'm going to push a little bit away from the wall. So I just let the ribs stretch. Let the elbows open out. You could have your hands push a little bit into the wall. Feels really nice to have that response in my breathing muscles, knees bending or legs extending. You choose. It's all about the ribs. Okay, so none of this is about how it looks. It's all about how it feels. You have to toss all that other processing away about I should look like this or that. All about feeling. Okay, so the arms feel a little different when my knees bend and extend. Okay, reach through the heels if the legs are extending. Stretch through the breath. Really use your breath as a stretching tool. The inside stretches via breathing. Deep breath. Belly expands. Exhale. Let it go. Try breathing through the nose. Let that be a focus. Walk the feet in. Take side sage on the second side. We're getting there. We're a good halfway or more through here. So take the time to let the ribs revolve, right? Rib range. So I try to use the weight of my hips and push into them when I come around to the second side. I have to get up for a moment, right? You have to kind of reset your things. Okay. So I know that from the first side, my blanket needs to be a little higher than I thought. So I'm just going to take my second blanket. It's really good to have these yoga blankets because they're a little bit more dense than like, you don't want like fleecy blankets. Okay, so right arm is between, the ball is on the inside of the left leg, sand on the outside, the left side. I just go across the hip because it's easy when I don't have a teacher putting the sand on for me. It's a little easier just to cross it on the hip. But sometimes if you place it to the hip, it's too much pressure on the bottom hip, so you might need more padding. You know, if you're not on a carpet, an extra mat, or just an extra blanket under your hip works fine. So my head is on the blanket, my arm is in the sling. Okay, I know this is nice for the shoulders to kind of get along with the ribs. Right, these got to get along, shoulders and ribs. Whenever you can do something that's really soothing for their relationship, it's so good. The shoulder rib relationship, just that continuum of length. Right arm is just between the bolster and the blanket. It's really no big deal. It's kind of easy peasy. I'm just on my side. I'm using these props to support my breathing and my elongation. It's all good. Expand the ribs on the inhale. Exhale completely. Just calm it down a notch here and let go. If the arm gets fatigued, you can always take it out of the sling. You can let it rest on the ground beside you. You can just let it go out, rest on the bolster, no big deal. Or you can just feel what it's like to take it out of the sling and push the wall a little bit. Notice if you're farther away, how nice that might be. The wall is a wonderful prop. Really nice, firm support. It has boundaries. The wall has boundaries. We'll have to learn from the wall. Okay, so now when I come out, I'm just going to slide the sand. I just kind of push it over. And then as I roll to the right hip, I want you to come around to take a moment, sitting on up, and then face towards the wall. Okay, and we're going to be using the feet at the wall here. So let's take our bolster away. Okay. A little water break. That's a good idea right now. And then all we're going to need here is going to be a blanket, and it should be really flat. Very little height for the neck. Minimal. Some of us might be good with no blanket. So if it feels like too much, just take it away. But I like the padding. Okay. So I want you to come to the wall, and if the belt kind of feels like it's in your way, you could just take it off the wall. You know, release it. I don't mind it. It's there, and I kind of know where it's at, and it's not going to bug me. Okay, but you might need to take it off. Okay, so the feet are about hips distance. Try this where you don't have the ball or block between the knees. Just feel with the distance of the feet. At least the belt tells you you have to be apart. Okay. And then the natural arch of the spine. Okay, and alternate hands on the thighs, just towards the knees, just above the knees. Inhale, arch and lengthen. So what's this about? It's actually lengthening on the arch. So as I inhale, I'm arching the spine, creating that deeper arch, tail to the floor. As I exhale, I rock the tailbone under, which feels like a cat pose. So tailbone under. So arch the spine, tail down towards the wall, and exhale, tail under. Now push into your feet, lift the hips up, stretch your arms back overhead. Not a good idea to roll your head on this one. So try to keep your head centered. And then as your arms move up, gently roll down the spine. Doesn't matter how it looks, right? So just feel the sensation of the spine motioning down, arching. Remember that tailbone pressing down. So tail presses down. And then as I scoop the tailbone under, I push firm and lift the hips up and stretch overhead. Okay, now you can continue this a few more times this way, but you could also add the ball, okay, between the knees. So this can be kind of interesting. When I add the ball and I reach overhead, I have to squeeze it a little bit to do this. I can't just let go of my leg muscles. So it's nice to include that awareness of the adductors pushing in when I lift up. It's kind of hard to do without the ball, to feel that the adductorness of it all. So, and what's good about that is that assists the strength in the pelvic floor, and we all need that. Okay, as we get older, right? With prolapse happening, with the organs, but also the muscles, pelvic floor muscles, right? Prolapse. So we want to go opposite that. That's one reason why I like to use the wall rope, being upside down, having my legs in the belt for a long period. It's easy to do. You just let the legs kick out in the belt and hang out and loosen up the spine and the hips. Okay, now taking another time, just one more, but this time let's add a block, okay? And you can keep the ball between the knees. It might be interesting. I don't prefer it. I like to go just block. So I lift the hips up and I put the block under the pelvis. My block is at the second setting. It could go the first or the second. And then if that blanket started to slide to your shoulders, push it back so it's only under your brain, no shoulders. Arms are down by the sides, and see if you can kind of roll the shoulder down and in towards the spine, chest open. You can walk the feet up the wall if you like. You can just walk them up until it's a little bit of a knee bend, but open up in the chest. Breathing. And you might even let the legs go straight up to the ceiling. They might not touch the ceiling, but you feel that reverse flow back to the heart. Relax the eyes back into the brain. Resting the face. Great. Now bend the knees. If they're already in some sort of bend, They're at the wall, huh? And as you push into your feet, you're going to scoop the tailbone under. And if you got your ball nearby, I would massage the glutes with it because they've worked out a little bit in the last position. And so I just put the ball under one buttock. It's nice when the feet are up high on something so that you can just massage into that right glute. Now go a little more lateral to the side of the glute. Mine is a little bit higher up than I intended there. So it was almost getting right lower torso. But it's all good, right? It all needs the circulation. I mean, is there any area that you wouldn't feel good to massage? Probably this is just great. These hips, go to the other side. Do anything you need to do to change, right? Anything's pulling on the neck, you want to loosen it up. It's worth it, right? To make sure you feel comfortable. If the feet come down the floor, that might feel better for you. Sometimes the wall, you slide on it. It's nice to get the idea of the feet at the wall lifted up, though, but we're just working on the glute here. Okay. All right. So now I want you to move the ball over to the side of your mat and just carefully roll to the side and then come on up. And let's try a little seated side stretch. Okay, we're going to we're going to need maybe 2 bolsters on this one. You can definitely get away with a stack of blankets versus the bolster. So if you want to have just a stack of blankets under your seat, I want you to take 2 blankets into quarter folds if you're not going to use the bolster. And you can sit on the blankets. If you're going to take the seated side angle, you need to take some consideration with support. So the blanket stack would either be 2 blankets or a bolster. If you're sitting on the bolster, it should be the flat bolster. I have a preference for blankets on this one, but if it's better for you to sit on the bolster, you would just take your standard size bolster like that and sit on it. The reason I like the blankets is I can change the height, right? I could take one blanket out. Bolster, I can't cut it in half. Okay. Now, if you have a round bolster, you're going to place that under the knee. If this is too high up, then just put a block or the ball. But this feels great. And if your knee is having a tough time and it's just not, you're trying to reduce some swelling in the knee, this might be too much bend. So if that's the case, you would just let the leg rest on the bolster like that. So I wouldn't be prying the medial collateral ligament, which is the side. So I would just let the leg rest on the bolster. It's still good. Doesn't mean that it's less, okay? So find what works for you and just kind of be intuitive. If this pressure on the knee, just don't do it. Okay, sand goes on the top of the right thigh. So it kind of lowers down into it's like a bit of a hip hugger. And then you're going to take your left arm into the belt, my favorite part. So I got my sling, okay. Yeah, if I could just do work with a wall rope, I would probably just do this for my yoga work. I just love the traction it gives me. It's so nice. Okay, so when my arm is into the belt, I want you to let this right side, so my left foot is at the wall, if you haven't identified with where it's going. You just have to start with one side. There's only 2 sides. So I'm going to try to let the moments of the pose lean into that left side and maybe use my left hand to hold my head. And I could swing a little bit side to side. I want to inch my elbow closer to the wall. And the right arm can either rest behind me or stretch up and hold the belt. Okay, you can hold it together. You can hold one side of the belt, you can hold the belt together. I like the arm behind my back. I don't mind feeling that kind of victory of reaching for the belt. It feels kind of like, oh, I did it. I climbed the pose to the top of the pose, but what's therapeutic is to feel that side circulation, leaning into that left side. You can go lower, right? You can have the belt longer, bigger loop, like you're trying to touch your knee with your elbow. You could, but you can't really master that until the right side of the body has lengthened out enough. To be honest, gentle is the new advanced for sure. No doubt. I think I like this bolster under my knee. It's nice. Give a few more moments for the circulation on the inner thigh, the leg pits, the lymphy areas, that fluid, to really feel that circulation that you viscerally feel with the muscle stretching. But there's more than just muscle. It's a therapeutic balance, right? We're just working on our circulation. And now come back. Now this one I find I have to go kind of slow. It's not like it's a big blood pressure change, but it's really interesting to get the sides to have these deep stretches. So another thing I like to do is just to swing back and forth with it. So what you could do instead of a long hold, you could do this kind of swinging back and forth. It's fun abdominal work, like this oblique kind of like typewriter shifting to move in the obliques. Okay, enough of that. Let's change sides. Okay, so I'm going to shift. I'm going to be turning away from you because I can't quite move this belt to the middle of the room. So you'll see the back variation from the back. Turn the bolster and the blanket. So I'm just going to switch my blankets. My left side is on the blanket. My right leg is at the wall. My bolster's under my left knee. And, if the foot is turning in, like you're going, well, I'm having trouble getting my foot to go up the wall. Get more props under your legs, right? Support yourself. Maybe you need more. Okay. That's just life, right? Our lives need props. Okay, so I got my sand, got my elbow in the belt, and I lean in. Like I said, you could go back and forth. Oh, feels good. My hand just rests on my left leg. Feel the torso. More so, torso. Torso, more so. Okay, so hand to my head, lean in. So this left side, you're articulating that range. It's interesting how it departs from the thoracic, right? Your mid body, your rib connectors to your mid spine. Really has this lovely experience of circulation. Right? So if my right foot is turning in, I might check it out and see what's going on with my posture. If my right foot is turning in, I try to reach into that foot. Maybe lift the left arm up and over. Pull. Feel the torso. Yeah, what I'm finding is when I let my head be held and the arm be held, that I can really feel the movement of breath in my ribs. Right, so I'm holding these extremities, right, which the head is an extremity in truth, right? It's a limbic brain. So I'm trying to hold on to that piece with the other extremity. And as that torso reaches, feel extension. You can even bring your fingers back to the base of the spine area. which is pretty much farther than we think, right? It really goes far down there. And try to extend the torso. Lengthen. Great. Okay, I forgot. When you come out of this one, sometimes I remember on the second side, you can take your hand to the knee that's pointed away and take a mild twist. It's kind of a nice thing to do to refresh your torso. Your more so torso. All right, with all that twisting and untangling of our insides, let's just turn back towards the wall, okay? And then slide off the blankie, or if you were using a bolster. And now we're gonna set up for a reclining cobbler's pose. So take a blanket. This is important to have blankets or towels. So you're gonna roll up a blanket or a beach towel because you want something that's dense. So you don't want a fleecy, fuzzy blanket on this one. I suppose you could stack a bunch of them, but okay. What I'm going to use is a flat bolster, okay? Because it's, well, this flat bolster works really nice. Actually, this type of round bolster would be fine too, but let's use our standard flat bolster, and then we'll take a blanket on top of that. So I've got kind of a bolster sandwich here. I've got a roll, a bolster, and a blanket on top. And then I'm going to sit with my feet to the wall. They're not up the wall, but they're at the base. And I'm going to have my bolster round. If you don't have a round bolster, you can use 2 blocks under the knees, okay? But as I put my round bolster under my thighs, I like this when my feet are really at the edge of the wall so I can stretch my toes. So my soles of the feet are together, the balls of the feet kind of push into the wall. And some of us might find that silly. So you can have the soles of the feet together, but feet can always use more stretch. Okay. So then I take my sand. Now, if you want it, you can have it across your feet. But as you lower back, create that arch. Place the sand as high as you want. If you want it up here at the heart, you can do that. You can cross the sandbag from the heart to the belly. But you might have to scooch your tail. I actually feel better with my tailbone a little farther down and under, tucking the tailbone under a bit than I was expecting. So some of us might be sacrum right up at the edge of the flat bolster. It just really depends on the moment right here. So the spine is naturally extending and my arms are resting down by the sides. They can be spread out, but your focus is on spreading inside. So relax the heart. And as you in-breath, feel that expansion that spreads directly from the breathing in through the nose into the body. It's so wonderful for my inhale, moisturizing and warming up the lungs with breathing through the nose. And then as I exhale, empty the lungs, either breathing out through the nose or maybe the mouth. But really feeling that natural filter through the nose. Feeling the body move with the breath. It's always stretching inside when you breathe. Resting the brain. Opening your heart. All for yourself. But also for living, right? For living in the world, for others. So feeling that expression of connecting to calming yourself. And just using the sandbag, if you have one, as a strengthening tool for the breathing muscles. Now let the shoulders feel that they can actually rest back and the heart can be open. You might slide them a little farther out on the floor. You might bring the arms back and interlace your fingers. But if it creates too much wave of tension in the shoulders, even if it feels like it's this surge of heat, you might be better off just letting them spread out and feel the surge really spread through the chest dimension, the heart. It just feels like it's more of a kind of a whole body concentration. Right, we're whole body concentrations now. Okay, slide the sand off of your center. Rest the eyes. And then just simply bend the knees so the feet maybe step on the brown bolster, like you kind of do a little rolling of the bolster to the wall and push. And this could be a really nice end to the practice, but if you feel like you want a little bit more, the one last option I recommend is to have the legs up the wall. So roll to the side and push the bolster away, and then just come down so that you're on, your seat is as close to the wall as it can be, and your feet can push out into that belt. You don't need anything under your head. You might have a blanket, but this one is nice just to have the feet out in the belt. And my hips are not all the way at the wall, but I could try for that. I could scoot a little closer, and then now I'm upside down, right? I'm a little more upside downish. Yeah, I like this one because it really holds that definition of my legs being braced by the wall. If I'm in the middle of the room with the feet out, it's different, right? This is maybe a little bit of a different grounding at the end of your practice. So give it a few moments. Let your hands warm up together. Bring them over to your eyelids closed, and let the heels of the hands rest on your eyes. Rest the heels of your feet, the heels of your hands. Feel the belly wave with the breath. Press the hands down onto the belly. So just finishing with the sensation of easeful circulation back to the heart, the throat, and the brain. Yeah, you could be in this one as long as you like, 5, 10, 15 minutes. If the feet fall asleep or they get tingly, it's time to come out. And now bend the legs, slide the heels towards each other. You can hold on to the knees or just the backs of the legs and just have a little swaying motion side to side. It can be kind of cradling. And then just slip the feet out of the belt. And with ease, roll to one side to the other. And then just come out of your yoga bed over to a side. So hopefully that felt like a pretty good sequencing in a restorative suspension yoga. Part of it was suspension using the wall rope. And you don't have to have this pad on it. This is a Sherpa cover that you can buy. But you can put like a towel, but it's the belt is fine too. It's just an extra bit of padding. It's kind of nice to have. But thanks for joining me, and I wish you much